So with the Oceanic class out of the way, let's talk about the other ship that people argue is the first modern ocean liner. Let's talk about the two Teutonic class ships and discuss a little bit about why these ships are so special. So the two Teutonic class ships, also known as the Teutonic class or the Teutonic twins, were a pair of modern White Star ocean liners built at the end of the 1880s. They were both constructed at Harland & Wolff shipyards in Belfast, Ireland, and were revolutionary for their time, like the Oceanic class 20 years earlier. The first major way that these two ships differed from ships of the past were in their propulsion. Unlike previous ships, which had sails and steam and both sort of held equal roles in propelling the ship forward, the Teutonic class ditched sails altogether with only some small triangle-rigged sails for emergencies, and relied primarily on steam power to push them through the oceans. And to do this, both ships had triple expansion reciprocating steam engines powering two separate propellers, making them some of the first White Star liners to be twin-screw ships. And all this together allowed them to achieve a record speed of 20 knots. Now, these ships were actually designed with speed in mind. After all, in the 1880s, there was a big competition over the Blue Ribbon. In fact, this would be the last time that the White Star Line actually competed for the Blue Ribbon. These ships were designed to make 20 knots, and they did make 20 knots, but it's worth noting that the White Star Line didn't build these ships alone. When building these two ships, the White Star Line had significant financial support from the British government. The Royal Navy had subsidized the construction of these ships on the condition that in the event of a major war, they could both be requisitioned for service as armed merchant cruisers. As such, these ships were designed with military purposes in mind, even having mounts on their decks for large guns. Famously, the Teutonic would first see service as an armed merchant cruiser right after her construction when she was presented at a Spithead Naval Review where she was toured by Kaiser Wilhelm, but I've got another video on that. The other thing that really set these two ships apart from the ships that came before them were their class structure. Before the launch of these two ships, many ocean liners, including all White Star liners in the past, had been a two-class system, with a steerage class and a cabin or saloon class for the upper class passengers. The Teutonic class introduced a second class, providing a three-class system, first class, second, and third, allowing a space for the middle class to also travel transatlantic. This actually proved to be very popular and would be copied by many other lines, but would also be applied to older White Star liners, with many old Oceanic class liners, Coptic class liners, and even the Germanic and Britannic going in to have second-class cabins added to them. And as far as passengers go, these ships carried just shy of 1,500 passengers, 1,490. That's 300 first-class passengers, 190 second-class passengers, and 1,000 third-class passengers. And while these ships were the first ocean liners to do many things, from their lack of square rig sails, their twin propulsion screws, their second class, they'd also be the last liners to do a few things for the White Star Line. They were the last two liners for the White Star Line built with speed in mind to attempt to compete for the Blue Ribbon. All liners after this built for the White Star Line would be built with the size and luxury over speed mentality that would ultimately manifest in liners like the Olympic class many years later. As a result, these two ships would be the last White Star liners to ever hold the Blue Ribbon. A few other miscellaneous facts: they were both about 582 feet long, which is 177 meters, and they had a beam of just under 60 feet, or 17.76 meters. Ultimately, both these ships would be built at the end of the 1880s, served through the 1890s and early 1900s, before being scrapped, with Majestic being scrapped in 1914 and Teutonic being scrapped in 1921. But if you'd like to learn more about the specific careers of each of these two ships that had huge impacts on the history of ocean liners, I'll leave a link up here to a playlist I'm building all about the Teutonic class, where you can find videos breaking down the lives and careers of both the Teutonic and the Majestic. And remember, if you enjoyed this video, to head down below, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon so you get notified when I upload new videos. So for Barbettes and Binnacles, I'm Colin, and I will see you next time.